In a very fair story, a member of Parliament's Communications Committee, Sam George, is alleging the House may have been misled to grant a $3 million tax waiver to Chinese TV operator StarTimes. The waiver is in respect of a project to provide satellite television programs at no cost to 300 villages in the country. Speaking at a forum that sought to dissect the controversy surrounding government's dealings with the Chinese in Ghana's digital migration regime, the Ningo Prampram MP said a $3 million waiver is far more than the cost of equipment to be imported by the company, suggesting that Parliament's Finance Committee may not have fully appreciated what it was approving. Joseph Akable, who was at the forum for Joy News, reports the Independent Broadcasters Association is meanwhile contemplating court action to withdraw the tax waiver.
The forum, organized on the theme Unpacking Ghana's Dance with China's Media Dragons, brought together broadcasters and civil society groups to share their views on the raging debate. GIBA President Andrew Danso Aninkra set the stage for discussion when he rejected suggestions by the Communications Minister that the association is seeking to hijack the digital migration agenda.
GIBA found it a bit difficult understanding what benefits the people of this country, what benefits the private entrepreneur in Ghana was not becoming. But when we are telling the general public that there is the need for us to go DTT, we are being told we are misleading the public. That is unfortunate.
Sam George then explained why he believes Parliament may have erred in granting the tax waiver to StarTimes.
The cost of equipment for the 300 villages is less than $1 million, but we're giving them a tax waiver which should be about 15 to 20% on the cost of the items, because that is actually what a tax waiver is. We're giving them $3 million. So are we thinking as a government? Are we thinking as a people? Are we not occasioning financial loss this day? Because a tax waiver is effectively taxpayers' money that you're giving to the recipient of a tax waiver.
Vice President of Policy Think Tank Imani Africa says GIBA would have to take legal action against government if it is convinced the waiver creates an unequal playing field for Ghanaian businesses.
If you are not satisfied, sue and have it stopped and force the ministry to explain to you that they are not giving StarTimes unfair advantage by allowing them to put their boxes into the system. And I can tell you straight up, in the business that you understand more than me, if anybody gets the opportunity to put these boxes in straight, they have ab initio an unfair economic advantage. So my suggestion is that yes, do all the noise thing. It's useful to inform Ghanaians and everything, and let them call it noise, don't worry. But do the things that also will bring a difference, including going to court if you have to.
The GIBA president tells Joy News heading to court remains an option.
It will not be for the first time that we are going into a legal tussle, probably with any ministry or any decision that has been taken which is wrong. We've been in court with the National Media Commission, we've been in court with the NCA. If this is the time for us to go to court with the Ministry of Communication, we can consider that as well.
GIBA is meanwhile expected to meet the Communications Minister for deliberations on the matter on Thursday.
The Chinese ambassador to Ghana has, however, refuted claims China is seeking to take over the country's digital TV space. The comments come as concerns grow over the seeming threat to Ghana's broadcast space by the entry of Chinese broadcaster StarTimes. Shi Tingwang, who was speaking at the launch of the satellite TV for 300 villages project in the country, says the suggestion is wrong, unfair and misleading, explaining China is rather working towards improving the living conditions of Ghanaians. Nancy Emefachira-Dozie has more in this report.
Addressing residents of Akwebo in the Blekuma West constituency at the launch of the access to satellite television across 300 villages in the country, Communications Minister Eslo Wusu revealed the selection of villages was solely based on consultations with members of parliament and other stakeholders.
Were selected in conjunction with members of parliament, including the communications and finance committees in parliament, ministers of state, municipal and district chiefs, executives, all of them were part of the selection of the communities. We tried to give a diverse spread so that every region would be represented. And I think we succeeded in doing that. So
meanwhile, Chief Operation Officer of StarTimes, Felix Ahunzo, denied claims of indoctrination of Ghanaian viewers by serving them mainly Chinese content.
A total of 20 channels, predominantly African content, to cover news, entertainment, music, movie, including our own Ghanaian Adipa channel, will be available to beneficiaries.
The Chinese ambassador to Ghana says, contrary to claims that China is seeking to dominate the country, its gesture is well-intentioned.
Satellite TV program. This program is an international program, Ghanaian local program, is set for free. It's nothing to do with the control of the media, of the media organization. No, the people deliberately misleading the two projects. This is totally wrong. This is unfair. They are deliberately misleading information.
Some 600 technicians are expected to be trained as satellite television installers across the country. Nancy MFA Dredosi, Joy News.
Well, Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Shi Ting-Wang, is assuring Ghana there will be more support for the country beyond the $2 billion Sino-Hydro facility to help ensure economic development. Speaking during a courtesy call on the Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, he also expressed concern about the high number of Ghanaians who attempt to enter China with forged documents.
I fully agree with you that China and Ghana, our friendship, we enjoy a long-term friendship, and our relations now is at its best time in history, and the cooperation between our two countries and the exchanges between our two countries are booming, and we have every reason to believe that there will be a very bright future waiting for us in the times to come. Well, I also noticed that there are some requests. For instance, on the development of your country, your request on the infrastructure development, especially in the area of the railway construction of the railways, and some other areas. China, we have done a lot to Ghana in the past, and in the future we will do more. For instance, this time when the president was in China, he witnessed to sign the agreement between the Sino-Hydro and the Ghana government on that $2 billion financing framework. So this is only one example that China in the future, we will continue to give you support in the areas that concerned and by your government. In the future, we will continue to answer the calls. For instance, President Akufo-Addo, his policy initiatives, one district, one factory, and one dam, one village, one dam, and Ghana Beyond Aid. Those initiatives actually is also, we share the same thoughts on the development between our two countries. We will work closely with you for the development of Ghana.
Professor Michael Quay expressed gratitude to China for its support for various development initiatives in the country.
First African nation you saw entered on the diplomatic level was Ghana. And the first African country you also received in your country by way of an embassy, and an ambassador who was an ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary was from Ghana. And that bond, I think, is something that should never be missed. In fact, some time ago, in 2015, when I led a team to negotiate the build down with Sino Hydro. In fact, it was through our instrumentality that Sino Hydro have become now such an important part of the development in Africa as a whole. But I reminded them of this historic relationship, and which should be fully enhanced for a stronger cooperation between your country and Ghana. Therefore, it is a matter of great joy, and we always look forward to the arrival of you. So it was that the moment you were announced as having come in, we were very anxious to also meet with you. And it is for your information that the Honorable Minority Leader has just also joined us. We work in that way.
Staying with China, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has underlined Ghana's newfound interest in China as a glorious path to growth and development rather than a new pact for recolonization by a superpower. Addressing the 73rd UN Assembly in the US, he was unequivocal in stating the development trajectory Ghana and other African countries have practiced over the years has not yielded the desired rates of development.
We know we must get our population educated and trained, and we are setting about it. We must address our infrastructural deficit. The traditional methods of tackling this problem will not provide the answer. We're looking for new ways to resolve it. Ghana, like many countries in Africa, is forging relations with China to make arrangements to help address part of our infrastructure deficit. This is not a uniquely Ghanaian or African phenomenon. It has not been lost on us that the developed, rich, and well-established countries have been paying regular visits to China and seeking to open new economic ties and improve upon existing ones. It is also not lost on us that a lot of anxiety is being expressed about the possibility of a recolonization of the African continent by a new power. We should indeed learn from history. It was at the turn of the 20th century that China's first railways were built by Western companies, financed by Western loans to a nearly bankrupt Qing dynasty. And it was under those circumstances that a strategic port called Hong Kong was leased for 99 years. And the rest, as the saying goes, is history.
We're taking a break on Joy News Prime. Government has committed to launch a full-scale probe into what it believes could be a case of create, loot and share in the award of the contract to build 5,000 affordable housing units at Saglemi in the Greater Accra region. According to the Works and Housing Ministry, there is evidence of shoddy work and potential corruption in the award of the contract, and that anyone found culpable will be prosecuted. Former President John Mahama commissioned the first phase of the project in June 2016, but the ministry says that contractors have only completed less than 500 of the 1,500 units required for the first phase, even though 98% of the contract cost has been paid out to them. The project, which cost $200 million, has remained unoccupied since. Deputy Works and Housing Minister Frida Prempeh has been speaking with Evans Mensah in New York, where government has just signed a deal with the UN to build 100,000 affordable housing units across the country. Evans first asked her why government is signing new affordable housing deals when the Saglemi housing project is yet to be fully completed.
Contracted OAS to put up 5,000 affordable houses at a cost of 200 million. That was in 2014. We were hoping that by 2 years' time they'll be able to complete. Somewhere along the line, they met and reduced the scope of works from 5,000 to 1,400 and 1,504 at the same amount of 200 million. They further reduced it to 1,408 at the same amount, and further reduced it to 1,204. The last time I met with the contractors, I asked them if Nana Akufo-Addo wants to commission Saglimwe affordable houses, how many can you offer us? We were talking about 442. So the
out of what?
Out of the so-called 1,024, not even the 5,000. Meanwhile, they've paid 98.7% of the total amount of money, which runs into 198 million plus. So we are still working on this agreement issue. My boss is a lawyer, and he wouldn't want to put his neck into something that he doesn't really understand. You know, we can't even find documents to all these things. I have to go the extra mile to Bank of Ghana, Judicial Finance.
I mean, there are no documents to cover all the amounts we paid?
120 documents. You know, the last time we met with some of the contractors and their delegation, one of them asked me where I got a particular document. And my boss was like, you signed the document, so don't ask her where she got the document from.
She also announced government's plan to roll out a one district, one housing project policy after signing the $5 billion UN affordable housing deal. Frida Prempe gave more details.
They are going to sink a whopping sum of $5 billion into this housing project. The government is not going to pay a dime on it. They are going to pre-finance the project. Our mandate or our part of the deal is only to provide land. And we all know that land acquisition in Ghana is quite a challenge. So as a ministry, taking it upon itself to acquire land back so that our investors will not find any difficulty in securing land for some of these projects. So yes, they're going to pre-finance it. It's going to create a lot of direct and indirect jobs. They're going to transfer technology because they want to set up their machinery in Ghana. They want to move away from the normal brick and tile, traditional way of building, into incorporating some new technologies into the housing industry. So this is not going to be a purely brick and tile project. It's going to be part brick and tile and part other technologies. We're talking about prefab and all that. We are hoping that within the space of 2 to 3 years, they'll be able to put up the 100,000. They've done same for Kenya. They've done some in India. They've done some in 1 or 2 other countries, and they've followed us up for quite a long time.
The signing of the deal was witnessed by President Akufo-Addo and top officials of the UN in New York. Meanwhile, former Deputy Housing Minister Samson he is disputing claims of corruption in the Sagalemi Affordable Housing Project. He's been speaking on Joy FM.
I think it's rather unfortunate that we have ministers who speak like that. When they assumed office somewhere in March last year, 2017, she said the same thing, and I told her that the ministry, there's a record for the ministry, and it is not true that there are no documents covering the project that we did. This project came to Parliament. It got parliamentary approval, and then we signed the West contract. All the documents are there. It was even mentioned in our handing over note. The number of units constructed before we left office were all mentioned in the handing over note. Is he saying that he has not seen the handing over note? We are supposed to do 1,502 units. We didn't finish the project, and they came to continue. In fact, when they came, they have also made some payments. Find out from her how much have they paid from the project fund. If there were no documents about the project, why did they continue payment to the contractor? Why did they re-engage the contractor when the contractor came to them, requested for extension of time to be able to complete the project? They willingly agreed and allowed the contractor some additional months to complete the project. We paid as and when they raised their certificate. And when we left office, we had not completed the project. And so the project was ongoing. They came in and they have also made some payment to the contractor. We have done not less than 1,400 units, and the remaining 100 were at various stages. Has he built a house before? Has he built a house before? We should stop this kind of pettiness that they are engaging in. What does it mean by the quality is low? Has he read the West contract? Has he noticed the specification?
We're taking a break now to bring you business. And coming up in business news, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority has failed to meet the revenue target at the Kotoka International Airport as of August this year. And there's a reaction from gold dealership firm Men's Gold to the SEC's interview that they granted us yesterday, that Men's Gold can go ahead or should be able to go ahead to pay clients their deposits. There's a reaction. We'll be sharing that reaction with you later on in the bulletin. Stay tuned. The Wasa Fiase Traditional Council and residents of Takwa in the Takwa Nsawam municipality have given government 2 weeks to complete works on the Takwa Wasa Angona Road off Roth. This follows a massive demonstration that saw the road being blocked ostensibly to draw attention to the numerous accidents there. 2 teachers and 6 pupils of a school in the area died in a gory accident there when their school bus was involved in a head-on collision with another vehicle last week. Correspondent Ina Thalia Kwanza sent in the following report.
The Wasa Fiase Traditional Council and residents of Takwa in the Takwa Nsawam municipality embarked on the massive demonstration to register their displeasure over the delay in completing works for the asphalting of the Takwa Wasa Angona Road on the Takrady-Takwa Highway. The demonstration began early Wednesday morning with traditional authorities clad in red and black. The youth were not left out as they chanted war songs in solidarity with their leadership. The construction of the road began in 2013 by Asabia Engineering Works Limited. 5 years down the lane, storm drains and mini drains along the road have been constructed and the base reinforced with rocks and clay to avert the perennial floods that occur mostly along the Anglo-Gold Gulf pitch. But the work is far from complete. Several road accidents have occurred on the stretch, with the latest being last week, claiming the lives of 8 people, 6 pupils and 2 teachers of the Lennox Bridge Academy at Dumping. The recent accident, according to traditional leaders, triggered this protest.
I think this thing has been long overdue because we have been suffering. One, if you go to any hospital in Takwa, we have liver problem, kidney problem, and because of the dust, it's all the mines is working with chemicals, and this is what we are suffering from. We are not saying that the mines shouldn't work, but at least we have to benefit. The mines are not helping our people, especially at Champim Chalikrum. When we are driving from here to Tamsu, we spend 2 hours sometime in traffic. So please, we are pleading to the government to come and help Takwa as general.
According to some residents, the road is almost unmotorable during the Hamilton, as well as usual heavy vehicular traffic on the road.
The reason, the problem we are having is that when it doesn't rain, there's a lot of dust particles. So we are playing with the government to come and fix the problem for us. We all came to support because we believe that it is through this demonstration that the government can listen to us.
We actually support the demonstration. We are actually much concerned about the road. Just if the cameraman can see, there's much trucks on this road, more than 100 trucks a day, in and out, and the dust, our children going to school in and out. We are pleading the government should come to our aid. Even if the road has not started, they should be watering the road for us at least so that we get the road going.
Municipal Chief Executive Gilbert K. Asma says the demonstration is premature as Assembly, in consultation with representatives of the Traditional Council, had drafted a proposal to Minerals Commission in request of funding support for the road infrastructure.
It's too early for such a demonstration. I believe you've been here on several occasions and you've seen the effort we've put in making this road motorable. So I think it's too early because even last Friday we met and there is a new proposal apart from the one we sent that the mining companies should come together where we serve certain ministries, finance, roads and highways, lands and natural resources, and then Ghana Highway Authority.
The chiefs have meanwhile issued a 2-week ultimatum to get the project completed or face their wrath. The traditional leaders also visited the Lennox Bridge Academy to speak to leadership of the school, who say the 8 who died will be giving a mass burial on Friday.
Meanwhile, Asabia Engineering Works Limited, the contractor working on the road, has refuted claims the contract was awarded 5 years ago. Managing Director Samuel Furilabi tells Joy News the contract was handed to him in March 2018 but had to be suspended due to lack of funds.
It was an emergency job that they asked me to proceed on site. And when they give you an emergency job, There's no procurement, nothing. On the line, instead of the engineers pushing the procurement, they also got relaxed. So what happened was, after working on the project to a certain portion, because there's no mobilization, you need to make a claim and go and look for money to come and continue their job. But you cannot make a claim without a contract. So I have to stop the project around somewhere last year, this year, January. Go back to Accra, spend, it was around last year, December, go back to Accra, spend about 4 months before the procurement was done. That is why that period, the site was quiet. So after the procurement was done, my contract started from on the 16th of April 2018, but not 2013. If anyone tells you when as far back as 2013, it's never true. I speak to you, I've done all the drainage works. I've done all the earthworks. The only job left is the drainage works were very serious works, very, very serious works, because we prepared the road proper, not to have any challenges in future for the next years. So after that, we have now begun doing the paving works.
So when are we supposed to complete this?
The government has promised me that he will release money for me to put the work. According to my contract, I have about 8 months more. But if everything goes well, the work remaining well, I don't think I'll spend more than 3 months to finish it.
Well, we're taking a river still ahead in the bulletin. Gold dealership firm Men's Gold has described as surprising an assertion by the Securities and Exchange Commission that it has not stopped the company from paying its depositors.
The action to them was to halt doing new business. Because again, if you think of a trading platform that is in operation and you are told to stop operation because your activity is illegal, if you have certain contractual obligations to your lenders, we expect that you would settle those obligations.
We'll bring you the Men's Gold statement later on in the bulletin. Do stay tuned. We're taking a break. A gold dealership firm, Men's Gold, has described as surprising an assertion by the Securities and Exchange Commission that it has not stopped the company from paying its depositors. The Men's Gold statement issued last night was in direct response to an interview the Commission granted Joy News, in which it clarified its directive for Men's Gold to suspend trading.
The action to them was to halt doing new business. Because again, if you think of a trading platform that is in operation and you are told to stop operation because your activity is illegal, if you have certain contractual obligations to your lenders, we expect that you would settle those obligations as and when they fall due. So from that perspective, and I think our letter specifically said that they should stop issuing new contracts. But paying out existing contracts, that doesn't stop you from doing that. So I think that's a point that has to be clarified.
Well, so the company issued this statement last night, and I'll bring the statement to you. It says Gold Vault market product services temporarily halted. Now, following the notice from the Securities and Exchange Commission of Ghana issued on the 7th of September this is not exactly the statement. So this is the statement. It says, on an interview on notice to suspend trading without license. It says, on an interview on Joy News earlier this evening, Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Paul Abebio, indicated that they hadn't stopped Men's Gold Ghana from paying matured extra values to customers, and that the director was to desist from establishing new contracts. We find this position rather surprising, as it shows a clear dearth in the SEC's understanding of our Gold Vault market product and raises the question of the basis upon which they decided to shut it down. The gold collectibles offered for trade by patrons of our Gold Vault market product are subject to our quality controls and traded for profits, which is shared as extra value with the product owner or trader. Any act, order, or instruction therefore designed or directed to or designed or decreed to forbid men's gold from trading makes it impossible to generate any revenue whatsoever, out of which extra values are charged and paid to those entitled. Thought-provoking as these ambiguities on the part of the SEC may be, Men's Gold Ghana is still committed to ensuring that business operations return to normalcy as soon as possible, as the firm is deeply saddened by the social and economic inconveniences this decision, and Director of the SEC has caused our customers and the organization. Meanwhile, Men's Gold Ghana assures all customers and patrons that all gold trades are safe. The leadership of the firm will continue to engage with the relevant bodies to expedite the reimbursement of all entitlements and assigned management. In other news, officials of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection Development are optimistic the affirmative action law would be passed by December this year. This was revealed Wednesday when gender advocacy group Abantu for Development organized a seminar to discuss the delay in the passage of the bill. Selinam Ampo was at the launch and has come through with this report.
In 2013, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection presented an affirmative action draft bill before Parliament to address gender imbalances in the society. Women's advocacy groups say women's representation in Parliament is still unsatisfactory and needs to be improved. Professor Techiwa Menu is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana.
I expected that from 1998 that by 2000, it should have been passed. You saw the Women's Manifesto, the projections that by 2008 we would have 30%, by 2012 we'll have 50%. I certainly am looking forward to the 40% that was promised in 1998. This is the year 2018. That's what, 30 years ago, we said we would have at least 40%. Here we are now, 12.7%. It's not enough. I think that Ghana should live up to its potential.
Director of the Department of Gender at the Ministry, Dr. Comfort Asari, observed that Parliament is unable to pass the bill due to lack of political will by successive governments.
What we know is when even a bill is approved by Cabinet and it is not yet laid before Parliament and a new government comes into power, then that government has to reconsider it before it gets to Parliament. So it's like reinventing the wheel, starting the whole process again. We've done all the consultations and resubmitted. So I think basically the number one issue is due to administrative procedures.
She called for further sensitization of the bill to ensure its acceptance by all sections of the society.
And we have to continue with the advocacy and sensitization drive because a lot of people there still do not understand or do not have the commitment. They are not committed to the whole passage of the bill. It's like they are indifferent. It will not affect them in any way. They don't understand even why we want parity in Parliament. They don't understand why we are fighting for equity. They don't get it. So we need to sensitize them. We need to train them. We need to talk with people. We need to get their commitments for all of us to say the same thing. With the work we've done and where we are now, it will get to Parliament maybe by the close of the year.
Selinam Ampo's report for Joy News.
The majority is insisting Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia cannot be blamed for the recent distribution of expired relief items to flood victims. Minority spokesperson on health, Joseph Yelechire, is asking the VIP to accept responsibility for the incident and criticize NADMO's announcement that it is taking the blame.
Any expired items for the victims. And by this time, we should have been hearing who has been sanctioned, either suspended or taken to task for this kind of mishap. Nothing is being said about it. And that is why any investigation will be properly done. Now, people want to say that the Vice President cannot intentionally send bad items to the people of the Upper West region. We know that. But that is why everybody, once the Vice President was going to be part of this, should have taken all the measures to ensure that he was handing over good items. We know that some of the items for NADMO are purchased by Ghana government. Others are donations. And just like anybody else, anytime you see a donated item, the first thing is it close to expiry and they want to give it away? So this is food item. So this was the first question that everybody should have asked. You have done the wrong thing and you want to say that people can go ahead. Why do you put an expiry date if it can be used? He ought not to be saying that. Indeed, if you want to say so, even when it is a medicine, you still have to ensure that the potency is there. If you test it in a laboratory and they agree that it's still potent, but it's not only the potency you look at, but the fact that having expired, there would have been byproducts within the product itself, which is now causing the problem. So as for those arguments they make, they shouldn't make them at all. They will be infuriating people. But it's particularly so with the NPP. When they know that things are hard, then they rub it in and say, oh, that's a brilliant thing, it is innovative. This cannot be so.
The chairman of Government Assurance Committee in Parliament, Jafrin Pong, said the Vice President could not have inspected all the items personally before distributing them. He further said institutions responsible should rather be made to take the blame for their actions.
Unfortunate because if it had been maybe roofing sheets, cement or something, bowls, bicycles, that they say had expired, I wouldn't be worried. But this is something that people are going to consume directly. And if something has expired, depending on the period of expiry, you may have the products getting poisoned. And you are going to save some people. You are going to do good to some people. And instead of doing good to the people, you are going to poison them. And for me, that is the worrying aspect. So I pray that they were able to salvage the situation as quickly as they got to know that some of the products had expired. And it goes to the core of the Ghanaian culture of keeping things. You see, I'm sure about 2-3 years ago, some of these things were donated that should have gone in terms of the floodings that we normally experience. And after they distributed, some of these, when they distribute, they always leave some. Instead of taking stock and making sure that the old ones are gone, at times they may even get new ones, they distribute the new ones, and then the old ones will be there. And it's a Ghanaian culture which is so bad, so bad. What they need to do as quickly as possible, clear everything that is in their stock, the national, the regional, and then the districts, so that a situation like this will not arise again. And also, those who took the things there, I know it was an emergency situation, so you cannot blame them too much. But in fact, we should set examples by letting some people stay away for some time, maybe on suspension, because it is a very serious matter. So that next time it will become a deterrent to some people. Things of this nature will not repeat itself.
So just get it clearly, you think sanctions should apply or at the level of NADMO?
I think they should, first of all, they should do serious investigations and find out if it was just negligence on some parts of some officials. They should be punished for that. They should be punished if it's negligence. But if, as I said, if it is something that they didn't know, if it is established after a thorough investigation, it is established that they didn't know. Somebody might have added some products that they knew had expired.
Well, in the very latest on this story, the Upper West National Disaster Management Organization NADMO stores manager Ali Suleimana has been suspended following reports he superintended over the distribution of expired food products to disaster victims. The regional director, Isaac Seidu, has also been queried to explain how everything happened. The Director General of NADMO, Erica Juman Prempe, confirmed this to Joy News Wednesday, and you can go onto myjoyonline.com to get to read more on this story. The minority in Parliament is warning of a crisis in the road sector, which will soon negatively impact the economy. Commenting on Wednesday morning's demonstrations in Takwa, ranking member on the Roads and Transport Committee blamed government for the situation. Kwame Agboja says there has been a significant cutback on funding for road projects since the NPP took over. He says government's decision to freeze some road projects to allow for investigations have not helped either, and demanded an immediate resumption of work.
It is quite clear that government has cut back significantly on investment in new roads and maintenance. You are aware that the government took a deliberate decision to, for instance, suspend work on cocoa roads and then further extend that to many other roads across the country. By our checks, the activity of the agencies under the Roads and Highways Ministry, that's feeder roads, highways and urban roads, has significantly reduced. Some contractors are owed huge sums of money. So basically what government is doing is to pay some of them piecemeal. And even some of them actually can't go back to site, partly because the amount owed them is more than what they can bear in terms of the relationship between them and their banks. So what we have now is becoming a crisis. For instance, if you go to Adaklu, because of the rains so far, some communities have been cut off. On roads that have either been awarded and have the projects have been suspended, or roads that the government didn't even allow the contractors to move on to site. And I've been saying, and as I've discussed with you before, we are going to have an impact on the economy when this continues up to a point in time, because there are products that are on one side of the road which cannot go to the market. We are having a situation where I have staff in one part of the community in Adaklu that can move to the Addis Assembly to even work. There are teachers locked up in at the other side. And I think this is, just a snapshot of what is happening across the country. I think the situation where you are where people are beginning to physically react is the biggest form of, frustration.
In other news, former President John Mahama says Ghanaians will make an informed decision in the 2020 elections because they have given both the NDC and NPP chances to lead. Speaking on his tour of the Central Region, the former president noted his party's defeat is the work of God and urged party supporters to help in the reorganization and preparation for the next general elections.
Na yesinia nyambe yebia eye if say osha nyame ena oma yebi nkubo no we say the people for say osha nsuo na osha ansa ena otimi munye emu.
Sometimes if you want something desperately, you will not have it. God may have allowed the NDC's defeat to teach Ghanaians a lesson.
Ghana boys Asia nsuo Asia ansa enti omo kasa omo nwuna emu obi na me odidi nso say na me adomenti abato a ye beto no 2020 no na me
Ghanaians have tested the NDC and the NPP as well. Now I am sure they can tell the difference between the two parties. This will inform their decision in the 2020 elections. You may not always be victorious in whatever you do, but reorganizing and launching a comeback is the most important step.
NDC ya pemwie ya no ya pra ko yichi 2020 afeni esa abeto.
More than 10 preterm babies have died this year at the Panda Polyclinic due to lack of incubators. For the babies to survive, they have to make over 200 kilometers a journey of over 200 kilometers on a very terrible road to Salagap before connecting to the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Medical Superintendent of the Polyclinic, Dr. Raymond Abongo, believes more babies can be saved if the hospital gets at least one incubator. Solomon Jojo Kobna has details in the following report.
Delivering a preterm baby can be very stressful, but in the Pandai district of the northern region, it is twice or even thrice more stressful because the hospital has no incubator. For babies to survive, parents would have to practice the kangaroo method. In very severe cases, they would have to be referred to the Tamale Teaching Hospital, which is over 200 kilometers away. Health workers say the Ghana Ambulance Service requests 500 cedis for fuel to make that journey. Unfortunately, many who cannot afford the fee fail to travel, and so their babies die.
And we try to manage in our own small way. But sometimes these children develop these complications and it's beyond us, because we do not have a neonatal intensive care unit and we have to refer them. A lot of them would have to go by public transport to Tamale to access the neonatal intensive care units there. So we have had close to 10 or more babies die because they were unable to access neonatal intensive care unit services. That is what we have done all these years.
Esther Mbalawo, a resident of Panda, says it is very dangerous carrying tiny babies on terrible roads to Tamale.
A health traveling with a preterm baby from here to Tamale is a very long journey, and the babies too are very tiny. Traveling with them is very difficult. So if you can help them, help the hospital get an incubator, so that anytime we get those kind of babies, we can attend to them here instead of referring them to a very far distance.
The polyclinic has no official vehicle, so they have to rely on commercial vehicles to travel for medical supplies.
And I usually would have to rent a pickup. If there's sufficient time for me, I rent a pickup. But sometimes the duty call is quite impromptu, and then it's difficult for me. Sometimes I have to go by the Metro bus or some of the other public transport.
Dr. Raymond Abongo says he would have loved to use his personal vehicle for official duties, but because of the poor nature of the road, he cannot even drive into the district. For now, he rides a bicycle to work every day. To check on patients who cannot travel to the hospital, still, his best bet is a bicycle. Health workers in Panda say, although they have many challenges, they urgently need at least one incubator and a vehicle to ensure babies born in the area are at least given a chance to live. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
4 intelligent girls left the audience at the Affirmative High School debate in awe as they advanced arguments for and against the newly introduced double-track second-cycle education system. Rebecca Edu Ijuma and Priscilla Bonsa of Adventist Senior High School joined Asakia Hawao Hanan and Huda Abdul Karim to give a boost to emerging female dominance in the competition. The motion was, the double-track system is a threat to good quality education. Lava Firm's Kwesi Deborah has more in this report.
Implementation of the double-track system at Dome Online on 1st August 2018 reported, and I quote, the executive of...
With verifiable references to support their argument, both sides provided some food for thought for policymakers and implementers. Adventist Girls SHS, who spoke for the motion, were of the view the double-track system comes with reduction in the number of teaching days from 180 to 162, and uneven distribution of experienced teachers. They also cited lack of corresponding amount of resources to increase in enrollment, increased number of day students, irrespective of the distance between their homes and schools.
Double-track system will disrupt classes when maintenance of some schools' facilities are needed to be done, which may affect academic work. To paint the picture vivid, ladies and gentlemen, for instance, my school
procurement and the distribution of teachers from the two tracks, one track will get better and experienced teachers than the other. Our opponents believe that a double track system.
T.I. Ahmadiyya SHS, on their part, argued the system has eased congestion, besides creating more space for a lot more Ghanaians to have access to second cycle education. They also indicated double track ensures maximum use of school resources, reduces teacher fatigue due to the 40-day rest. Besides, vacation period for each track affords especially technical students to be attached to industry for practical training.
Double track system ensures maximum use of schools resources. The double track system, which is a year-round system, keeps all public senior high schools active and operational throughout the year except on weekends and on public holidays. Thanks to the double track system, school facilities will no longer be left idle for weeks to be covered by cobwebs and dust, only for us to return to school and spend the first week to clean. We know our opponents will tell us that the double track system puts pressure on school facilities, which can get them damaged. Wrong! In fact, large students now use school facilities at a time which reduces the burden on them.
Do you want to know? In the closest contest so far, T.I. Ahmadiyya progressed to the next stage, beating Adventist girls by 235 points to 230. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
And my name is Israel. Thank you much for watching. You have a good night.